Good evening and welcome again to Ideas at Work and Beyond. Tonight's show could possibly be the greatest show ever in the history of Ideas at Work and Beyond. I don't think when Alvin Isami, before he went down to be a full professor at Howard University, and by the way, I talked to Ivan just last night, and he's taking his 3 boys to the Bahamas for 6 months, or 6 weeks, to visit some of his extended family. But I don't think, after he handed this show off, where we've interviewed movie stars like Mr. Vaughn, we've interviewed the powerful Mayor Boughton, Congressman Chris Shays, we've had debates right on this very set. We had all the politicians from Bethel come in, one after another, the Dragon fighter. I don't think he dreamed in his wildest imaginations that we would have a guest like we have this evening on Ideas at Work and Tonight, because we are truly blessed to have none other than my mother, Loretta Heiser, joining us this evening on Ideas at Work and Beyond.
Good job.
Yes, you can hear the guffaws and the ahs coming from... No, my mother is visiting because my youngest daughter, 17-year-old Grace Heiser, captain of the volley team, all-around wonderful person, is graduating from Ridgefield High School. So you made the long trip up from your retirement in North Carolina.
Right.
And I was thinking, you know, we have this show. We have every Thursday to fill. We've got to fill a lot of space. And I was thinking over your life, and I thought that if nothing else, it is worthy of chronicling in a show like this. And so I twisted your arm.
It didn't take a lot.
It didn't take a lot.
No.
But I want to share your life. In other words, this is your life. And it starts in Germany, as our viewers will certainly find out. Right. And it comes to America, and it comes with highs and lows and tragedies and what have you.
Right.
And we have some photographs here, which we have signed in. But first of all, let me just introduce you to the audience, and then we want to hear what your childhood was like and where you grew up.
Okay. Now, tonight you're going to find out where this one came from. I was born in Bonn, Germany on November 5. Do I have to give a date?
Yes, you should. Well,
no,
you
1935.
In 1935.
No
okay.
problem. No problem. And in a very, very happy family setting, my dad had started a Coca-Cola franchise in Germany. And after he had fallen in love with my mom, who in itself would be a book by itself, from a very small little asparagus town, and he had taken over the grocery store from his dad. So they met. We often teased them pretty much on a market scene. And Dad started the Coca-Cola business, and we lived in an apartment house across from the Rhine River.
Now, we just have to go back, because we want to get into some of the sort of deep, dark secrets of our family. I think it's time to let these out.
Okay.
But can you confirm or deny that my grandfather was the head of a motorcycle organization in Bonn, Germany? This is the rumor. Is this true?
Now, I wouldn't say the head, but he was very active in the motorcycle club. As a matter of fact, so active that he took my mom on his honeymoon in the motorcycle. But it was the kind that had a part next to it. A sidecar. So Mom was sitting in there, and he was doing the driving, and they had a wonderful honeymoon all through Germany.
So it wasn't quite the Hells Angels.
Not quite the Hells
Angels. But they started from humble beginnings.
Right.
Okay, well, if we could, we have some of those photographs from some of the early years in Germany. I don't know if Al's back there, if you could run some of those. There you go.
Yeah.
Now, are you the well-behaved one on the right that is prim and proper and behaving themselves?
No.
Or would you be the one on the left that is, what happened there?
Now, first of all, I was never well-behaved.
No?
No.
Okay.
I was supposed to be a boy. I was a very disappointment to my family that I was another girl. So I think all through my life I acted like I would have been a bad boy. This was a scene. My family had actually taken us into a konditorei, into a cafe, and all of a sudden I was missing. And they looked around, and there was a lot of talk from people coming from the street and saying, look what's happening. I had crawled away from our table and crawled into the display of the cafe and was eating all the ice cream off the cakes.
All right, now konditorei, that's kind of like a bakery coffee shop, and they had all the fancy cakes and everything in a glass display.
Exactly, and I crawled in.
All right. Yeah. We have some of those other pictures, Al, if we can just keep rolling those, because it's interesting. Now, what's this? What about the Coca-Cola Company, and what does that have to do with your family in Germany?
Okay, as I said, Daddy had started a franchise for Coca-Cola. A friend came to him and said, there was this man from Atlanta, United States, and he was looking for a businessman who could start a franchise. Now, Dad said, what does it take? And the gentleman said, a truck and I think 100 D-mark, or whichever it was.
Okay.
And Dad said, I don't have either one. So this
didn't have 100 Deutschmark, didn't have a truck. But he had a positive mental attitude.
Very much so, very much so. So this gentleman said, I'll give you the truck and the 100, I'm counting on you. So he came home and he told Mom that there was this drink that was very, very good in the United States, and he was offered a franchise. So Mom tried a taste and said, oh no, this is horrible. We can't make a living of this thing. So Dad said, oh, I've heard that maybe if you put an ice cube in it and pour the Coca-Cola over it, it tastes better. So then she started drinking it and liked it too. It became an all-consuming effort on both my parents. He started with a bicycle. He had the first case, and I think 24 bottles were 24 stops.
Okay.
And from then on, for instance, I remember as a young girl, I could never use the telephone because maybe somebody was calling in with an order to have some Coke delivered.
Okay.
So this is in our first Coca-Cola truck. Again, I'm the one who's making the faces. Another thing in this picture, you see our matching outfits?
Yes.
My mom, because I was a girl now, we had matching dresses made by a seamstress who came to our house for every occasion.
Okay.
Other than when we went to school, we had to wear the school dress.
Okay.
So we had a Sunday outfit, which was matching, and we had a school outfit, and then we had a Schürzchen, which is an apron that we had to put on in between. So you would see
Gute, kleine, deutsche Fraulein.
Right.
Okay, now, I have a question, because this is that you lived through and can bring sort of another perspective on World War II. Because we're not saying exactly when you were born, but it was sometime in the middle of the 1930s.
Now, I did mention 35.
Oh, you did? Okay, 35. So you were a small child when literally bombs were raining down on Bonn, Germany. And tell me a little bit about that. What was that like, and how did it affect your life?
Now, Bonn was probably one of the few cities that was not bombed right in the beginning of the war. So we got it a little bit later. But we would be trained that we would have what you call a warm-up suit next to your bed. And so you'd go to bed and brush your teeth and say your prayer, and the minute Mom or we would hear the siren, there were 3 sirens. It was the before alarm, the alarm, and then the after alarm. When we heard this, we had to get in our jumpsuits and run down 3 flights of steps. Then, in those days, very few men were still around, so the women had to kind of close the basement door, which was a very heavy door. And then we'd be laying in there often on our stomachs, just praying, thinking that maybe the whole apartment house would fall on us. And then when the alarm was finished, we could go back upstairs. You were never allowed to have a light on, because, again, a light would show the planes to come and bomb. We also would wake up as little children when we wanted to go play in the backyard, and we would look out and first say, oh, it's cloudy today, great, the airplanes can find us. So a clear sunny day, which a child would have loved to have, you know, was really not a good thing.
Wow, it's interesting to, I mean, growing up, you hear the human toll that war takes.
It was
now,
terrible.
for the record, I think you guys were on the wrong side of that whole thing. But we're not here to talk about World War II.
No, in politics.
No politics.
Right.
But it is very interesting to see from a little girl's eyes what it was like.
Do you know that to this day, your dad will tell you, I'm still afraid of thunder and lightning. I still will. I have the cleanest closet when it gets lightning, even in our condo now in the retirement home. It just brings back that same fear.
Now, you said even as a small child once, something happened around Christmas time. And
Yeah. One time I received this wonderful doll, and the doll had just the material for the body, but a real porcelain head. And I was given it for Christmas, and the day after Christmas an alarm came, and I carried the doll and ran down all those steps, and the doll fell, and the head broke. And forever I still ran around with my little doll.
Well, it's sad. I mean, again, it's interesting to hear it from a small child's perspective, and even growing up. I know we're jumping ahead, but you bought a house that had lots of open windows and French doors,
Right.
and my dad used to joke because you would have every light in the house on.
I still
all
do.
the time.
I still
He
do.
said that like the planes flying into O'Hare Airport would just line up on our house because it was the brightest light.
Right.
And this is all from.
It definitely stems from that time, yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so now, the war is over.
Right.
The good guys win. That would be us. and it's a tough lesson. But every couple generations,
I'm on your
the
side
Germans
now,
need to be put in their place.
I'm on your side now, too.
But what was it like then after the war? I mean, tell us what it was like.
Now, I think probably the most memorable thing in my mind is the destruction. When you see sometimes nowadays a building being taken down, you know how these doors are wide open and wallpaper is hanging down. That was going on for a long, long time. I mean, I can't even think of 9/11, how much this all, reminded me again. So for a long period, the destruction was horrible everywhere. Even though our own apartment had been spared, the house next door was totally destroyed on both sides.
Wow.
The other thing is that, of course, everything became so sparse. You could not get food. You had food stamps for, just the basics. You would stand in long lines for milk, for maybe a little meat if it came on the market. And so everything just, I remember my mom making something out of potatoes, apples, and Rübenkraut. Rübenkraut, whatever Rübenkraut is.
Just the other day I was at the McDonald's drive-thru and asked for Rübenkraut.
I bet you got
they were out.
Yeah. And so she would make a meal out of potatoes and apples and Rübenkraut, sometimes cooked, sometimes baked, sometimes raw. And I have pictures, not in here, that I am still looking very healthy, and my sister Gilla too. But my mom and dad were like just less than 100 pounds. They gave everything to the family, to the kids.
Now, there was one story where you had ration cards.
Yeah.
And this was like from your childhood?
Right.
And you had lost one?
There were about 3 times I was spanked by my dad. And
Really?
one of those 3 times was when he let me go with the ration cards. Why he would have trusted me with the whole ration card, I don't know. And I lost them.
Now, this represented food for like a month?
No,
or
I think we got them probably weekly.
Okay.
Yeah, or maybe longer.
But this was a big deal.
But in the ration card, there was a place where you wrote the name and the address, and somehow honesty prevailed, and Dad got a phone call from a lady far from Bonn that somebody had found them and they belonged to us. And Dad was so grateful. This little girl that belonged to their family was going to make her first communion, and they had no money for a dress. So my dad called our seamstress to have a dress made for this girl, just out of gratitude for the ration card.
Now,
But I was spanked.
you were spanked. The girl got a dress, you were spanked.
I was spanked, yeah.
And then now, tell me a little bit about the American soldiers that occupied it. Now, is it true that that was the first African American that you had seen, and
It
what
was.
was your mom? What did your mother say about American soldiers in general, and what did you do, being the disobedient child that you were?
I wasn't that bad, but anyway. Yes, the soldiers came. That's the first time I saw Wrigley gum. It's the first time I saw a banana. I'd never seen a banana before.
Huh.
They gave us some chocolate. But we were young girls growing up now. My sister, 15 months older.
Well, we have some pictures, too. We can roll some of those, too. Okay.
And my parents protected us. And soldiers, no matter in which uniform, is not a good thing.
Okay.
Oh, here we go back. I'm still the little girl.
And that was a cousin there, then?
A cousin in front and my sister behind me, and this on a donkey. I think this was a fake donkey for the picture.
Oh, really?
But we did take, yeah, it was a stuffed donkey. But we did take real donkeys up on
right.
onto.
And then I think the next picture shows you and your sister. That's a younger picture.
That's even younger.
That's again
That's
you
my
misbehaving
mom.
and your sister behaving. As you
Being
pull
so
that
good.
necklace.
She still is so good.
And she really
Yeah,
is.
she still is so good.
Pantagilla is it.
It's
And then
just
the
the
next,
same.
there are a couple more.
Yeah.
There you are. Okay, so
Okay.
this is a little older.
This is a little bit older, and now our dresses were just a little different. Can you
Okay.
see? Gilla had more lace up here, and I just had two colors. I mean, we finally put our foot down.
Okay, so the war is over.
Right,
You're beginning to rebuild.
right.
There's an occupying army there, and it's tough. But now you're continuing with your life. You're going on, and you go to college, and by all accounts, you had a wonderful. What was it, like a boarding school, a Catholic girls' school?
Yeah,
What was it?
first it was from about 11 years on. For 7 years, I went to a nunnery school, a school of Sacred Heart nuns,
Okay.
which are Catholic nuns. Very, very strict.
Okay.
Hopefully my parents thought they could straighten me out. But I wasn't really bad. I was just kind of naughty, you
Yeah.
know. I think I've seen you do the same.
Yes, I understand.
Anyway, all of a sudden it occurred to me that maybe I had let my family down, and I was really going to show them how good I could be. And I became the star of the school. I was given the highest ribbon. I graduated with honors.
Wow. Now, is it true that you were a shot putter in high school?
That's the worst thing you
Well,
can bring up.
my wife was very good at badminton. She would, hit. So someone has to be the shot putter.
I know. Your father always says, don't ever say
Don't
this
bring
in
it.
this country.
All
No,
right. Could we, controller, can we edit the shot putter bit? Just rewind.
Yeah. I
So I
did learn
understand
to
you did synchronized swimming. Is that true?
I did. No, I did good swimming. I did play tennis. I was
okay.
a very good runner, and yes, I did do some.
Okay, now, but you've gotten a taste of what it is to see an American man in the American Army soldier, and you
Right.
said to yourself you wanted to fulfill every German girl's dream by coming to America.
No.
That's not what happened.
That's not
okay.
what
I wish you'd stay on the script here, because that's what I was thinking.
No.
No. Why? What made you decide
As a
to
matter
come
of
to
fact,
America?
we were not allowed to go out with any soldier, ever.
Yes.
If you had a date, you would not go with soldier.
That's all.
So after I graduated from this private school, I went to the University of Bonn in Cologne, and
Okay.
I started heavy dating. Now, nowadays, your daughters
Yes.
would probably correct this. What it was is we went out with wonderful guys who
That's right.
studied. We had dances, we had house parties, we went to dances. The idea was the more you get to know different people, the more you know what choice you want to make when you get married.
There you go.
So when I had to make a choice of what to study, my dad said it would be really wonderful if I could take over the Coca-Cola company.
Right.
Because 11 years after me was a little boy born, finally that boy after the war.
Right.
But it took quite some time to get him to the age to take
And
over
by the
company.
way, after World War II, after
Right.
in these bombed-out cities,
Right.
the people were still very thirsty.
Right.
And your father, Peter Burfant, continued to grow the Coca-Cola business.
Now, it
in
was
Bonn, Germany.
destroyed 3 times. And
By-
he had
by
five
bombs. Wow.
And he had to rebuild each time.
Okay.
But did,
Okay.
and was successful. So he gave me the idea that I should take over the company. I was also dating a lawyer, and I'm not so sure they were so in favor of this particular
Dodged a bullet
wonderful,
there, huh?
dodged a bullet.
Yeah.
So when visitors from Atlanta came and they met me, my dad would say, now, you know, would she be okay to take over? And they said, not with this lousy English she's speaking, absolutely not. So Dad said, what am I going to do? Now, the suggestion always came for me to come to America for a semester and then come back and take over the company.
Okay.
So
How did you decide on schools? I understand you went and talked to the nun and you said, I want to go to America.
no. My dad said, first of all, when I graduated with honor from the university, he would let me go right then. Now,
Okay.
you don't graduate until end of July. And universities here start in September. And
Okay.
I didn't know how many universities or which one to choose. So I went to the American Embassy, and they had this big, huge book, the Barron Books of
Okay.
Colleges or Universities.
All right.
I went to the secretary and I said, I'd like to go to America to a college. And she said, which one? I said, I don't know. So she gave me this
Just any college,
huge
just-
thing. I had no clue how many colleges and universities there were. So having had the nuns teach me over there, and I liked them by then, I looked up colleges of women only by the same order, by the
Heart.
Sacred Heart.
Okay.
So there was Barra,
Yeah.
B,
Right.
in the alphabet, Manhattanville, here in New York.
Oh, yeah.
So I wrote just to the Catholic colleges.
Okay.
And the first letter that came back was from Barra College in Lake Forest, that they hadn't had a foreign student in some time. And yes, this was August for September starting.
Okay, okay.
And my dad didn't want me to go all alone, so his architect's daughter also wanted to come and came with me, but she was afraid of flying.
Uh-huh.
So they put us on a boat, the United States. I don't know if it's still, I don't think it is in harbor any longer. Anyway, they bought us 2 first-class tickets, which was fine, but far too stuffy for us. There was no fun in first class.
Okay.
So Gabi and I always went to second class and went to be among the real young people.
Yes.
And so we stood on the deck and waved goodbye, and I remember this one soldier, again, it wasn't a soldier, coming up to me and said, where are you going to the States? And I started a conversation. He said, your English is awful. And I said, what can I do? And he said, chew gum. So I went to the drugstore on the ship and bought gum. And ever until I had married your dad was I chewing gum to get rid of my accent, until he said, keep your
that's
accent, don't you?
Okay, if we can keep rolling forward some of those pictures and get to the priest, because we want to get to how my mom married a priest. So you get to Barrett College,
Right.
and if you have those pictures, we'll roll forward to that, because you met someone.
There.
And this, this gentleman right here. Now, break this down for us. How did you meet
Now I arrived
Ken Carey? There,
the priest.
this is my
Right.
this is my father, ladies and gentlemen.
Right, it is.
I'll let my mom explain. Go right ahead.
Now, your dad had gone to a seminary in Wisconsin to become a Catholic priest.
Okay, let's get the chronology on this right. This is important. Go ahead.
And because his dad had died, and he just wanted to become a priest. About 4 months before I arrived in Lake Forest, Illinois, he had decided that the priesthood was not for him, that
Okay.
he really wanted to become an architect.
See?
So he had come out, he told his mom he wanted to become
So
an
the
architect.
picture that we're seeing here is not necessarily, if you'll notice the collar is a little thinner.
Right.
And this is actually him studying in Catholic seminary as a brother, and he had not taken, well, let's just cut to the chase. He hadn't taken the vow of celibacy, which would explain
And
me being here right
And
now.
forever I have said that I didn't get him out from becoming
Yes,
a
that's
priest.
why the
That was-
chronology
I
is
know.
important. Ken Carroll, there pictured there, was at some point had decided that it wasn't his calling to become a priest.
Exactly.
But while he was at seminary, they had that picture taken.
Right.
And Big Aunt Nancy, one Christmas, gave me that
Okay.
picture. And it is quite a conversation starter.
I know.
When you
I
point
know.
at it in your office
I
and
said,
say, that's my dad.
Yeah,
it's-
I can see
it's
that.
very
the
good.
confusion.
But anyways, okay, so he had left the seminary.
He had left
and then
the
how did you
seminary
meet him?
and college started, and his sister went to the same college. We arrived one day early for school, and the head nun of our college decided that all foreign students who had arrived a day early, there was some South American, a Dutch girl, would go from Lake Forest to downtown Chicago to get a little sightseeing tour. Now, she called Ken Carroll and said, would you do me a favor? I don't want 8 girls at one restaurant by myself, and meet us. So we had this long table at a restaurant called the London House, and Ken sat at the very end, and I sat over here, and I kept looking and think, I've never seen anything so big in my life. I mean, he was so big. I only went up to his shoulder. He was 300 pounds and 6'6" tall. I mean, very, very big man. So we had conversations, not the two of us, just as a group.
Yes.
We come back to Beara, and the following weekend is a tea dance. In those days, we had tea dance. We wore white little gloves, and they brought in the gentleman, and he had gone to Notre Dame down in Indiana, which was a Catholic college. So his sister came back up to me and said, Loretta, my brother Ken wants to see you again
Ah.
on this dance. And I looked over and I talked a little while, and then he asked the Dutch girl to dance. And I thought,
The Dutch?
Yeah, the Dutch girl, not me. I thought, forget it, I don't need him either, you know. And I went off dancing with somebody who just wanted to practice his German on me. Anyway, so he saw me dancing a pretty heavy, fast dance, and said, I'm just not ready. I've been in the seminary too long.
Yeah.
To,
Not a lot of dancing going on in the
dancing,
seminary?
no.
That's right.
So he went home and decided he had heard that I liked football, American football.
Yes.
So he called and wanted to take me to a Northwestern game. And I was all in favor, and we went, and I have never in my life been so stunned. They didn't use a foot,
Yeah.
and they didn't use a ball.
No.
They called it football. They went into these practice things, they stuck their fanny out, and then
Yeah.
they get the ball, and then they run, and then they, I mean, I just...
You'd never seen an American football game. You grew up on
Never.
soccer and didn't really
Soccer was-
appreciate it.
Right.
Okay.
So I must have asked all these dumb questions, but I kept looking at his handwriting. He had the most beautiful handwriting and the most beautiful hands. And so it wasn't the game that was important to me, you know. And then after that, he asked me one day to come and join him in an evening function of the Scottish Bagpipers. And I said, oh, I can't.
Quite an operator, my dad.
Yeah, no.
Second date,
Yeah.
Scottish bagpipers.
No, I couldn't because
He
it
was making the moves.
it was an evening function. I said,
Oh.
we have curfew.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And he said, you can stay at my house. I beg your pardon, you know, I'm not that kind of a girl. He said, I'll ask the nuns. I thought, I know the nuns, you know. There's no way they'll ever let me spend a night at his house with his parent, with
Yes.
his mom there and sister. So next day I ran into the leader of the school, and she said, Loretta, Ken Carroll called and wants you to come to the Scottish Bagpipers and stay overnight. I said, yes. She said, that's perfectly fine.
So wait. So
Oh.
he's dating you, and he has to ask the nuns if it's
Right.
okay for you
Right.
to go on a date to the Scottish Bagpiper concert and then spend the night at essentially his parents' house.
Right, exactly.
And the nuns gave you the thumbs
Right.
up.
And when the game was over, he excused himself for a minute and made a phone call. Later on, I found out he called his mom to say, turn all the lights on, you know, everything totally proper.
Yes.
So on Simpson Street, you know, this house was a staircase going upstairs where he is going up, and I thought, any minute. Now, this is a big man. You
Yes.
know, I had my fists here. I thought if he says anything or does anything, I don't know what I would have done. But anyway, he turned around and he said, do you want to go to church tomorrow?
Ooh.
I said, tomorrow is Thursday. He said, I go to church every morning. Now, that was a shocker.
Wow.
I had not heard that or seen that.
Could I just interrupt just for a
Yes, sir.
second? For those of you seeking to, maybe make headway with the opposite sex, may I just propose to you that Scottish bagpipes and a morning mass the following morning may be the way to a girl's heart. Now, at first blush, you may say that's unconventional. I'm not sure that will really work. But what the heck? Give it a try. Think about it. How's your dating life really? It's worth a try. Scottish bagpipers followed by morning mass.
I never even thought of that.
Seriously.
That would go.
I don't think a lot of the youth are going there.
I don't think so either.
But it worked.
No.
Okay, so go ahead.
Anyway, we started seeing each other more and more and more, and really, there was nothing but falling in love with him. He was wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Now, how do I tell my dad?
That's right. There's a lot of Germans over there that are counting on you.
Right.
But really,
so I
had a big, tall American.
Right. I kept writing my mom and my dad, and that I thought I was falling in love, and Dad said, absolutely not. It can't be. You're homesick.
Verboten.
Yeah. So then finally I convinced them that this was really the person, and Dad said, now, I tell you what, you come home for 6 months, and we'll see how you feel. Mm-hmm. So I broke up my college part, went home, and I was knitting a sweater for him.
Right.
Now, if you're 6'6", 300, you need a lot of stitches. And I sat there every night and I was knitting and I was crying. And my dad said, what's the matter? I said, Dad, this is the man for me. I said, does he have any money to come and meet us? Now, we didn't have a penny, nothing. I said, yes. I'm sure I knew him. He'll get it. I don't know how he got the money, but he came. And they fell in love. And we have a picture here on that day when he arrived. This one.
This one here?
Yeah.
Oh, that was one. Yeah, we had that one up. When he arrived in Germany. So this is in Germany.
Yeah, he arrives in Germany, and my family meet him and totally fall in love. Then my father said, you tell this to the young people nowadays.
Yeah.
You can still not marry him until you also have a degree from America.
Wow.
So I had to do another year and a half until I got a degree. Graduated June 2nd and got married July 2nd.
Wow.
Beautiful big wedding.
Yeah, I think we had the wedding dress
there.
We had
a wedding dress. Mm-hmm. I had 13 bridesmaids. 8 of them were Americans, and the others my friends from Germany. It was just a dream. We went on our honeymoon in Europe, and then went back to start our life in the States.
Okay, and then you
little apartment, $145. It occurred to me just the other day for a 3rd floor, 1-bedroom little apartment.
In Rogers Park.
Rogers Park, 7660th Street. Right.
And then you had my older sister Teresita. And you had me.
Teresita. Then let's not forget you.
No, let's not forget me. That's
actually, the apartment was so small that I kept a little one of those beds that you open up and put you in the bathtub every night.
Oh, I slept in a bathtub.
You slept in this little baby bed in the bathtub, so you wouldn't waken your sister.
Really?
Yes.
So I grew up in a bathtub.
You grew up.
I got that going for me, which is nice. Okay, now, we talked about your life. There was, making it through the war, which was difficult, but otherwise a wonderful childhood. Then you fall in love with the man of your dreams. You have these children, but at that point, there was some real tragedy. And you were pregnant with your 3rd child, and what happened?
Right. In January of 1964, we were married in 59. In January of 64, we found out that another baby was on the way. And your dad, we were all thrilled. And Dad said, it would be great if it was another little boy, and we'd call it Mark Peter, which were the name of my dad and his dad combined. At this point, he had just finished, or we had just lived for 6 months in the dream house. He, being a Frank Lloyd Wright lover, and me liking windows and light, had built a Frank Lloyd Wright home on family property in Illinois. It was so dramatic and beautiful, and way out, no one could see. There was a lake and a forest, and it was just gorgeous. And on January 14th in 1964, he was killed by a drunken driver, a drunken teenage driver ran into him, the side of his car, and killed him instantly. So then, my dad, God bless Dad, on the phone, you come home. You can still run the Coca-Cola company, you still come home. And I couldn't. I looked at you, I looked at Teresita, I knew I was not quite 3 months pregnant. I just had to stay. So I did, but neither was I wealthy. And Ken had always said, if anything would ever happen, he couldn't get insurance because of his size, you know, affordable insurance at that time.
Life insurance.
Life insurance. He said, if anything would ever happen, you just sell the house. And this is the equivalent. It was a beautiful place. So after the funeral and everything, I put the house on the market. And it didn't sell. It would not sell. It was so unusual. It was so different. So I knew I really had to work. But the baby wasn't born until August 14. So I got a call from the college that I had graduated from. And they said, what are you going to do after the baby? No, we want you to come to work for us now. And I said, I can't. I'm pregnant. Of course, no one knew that. It didn't show yet. So they said, when's the baby due? I said, August 14. And they said, okay, September 1, you have a job with us. So I went to work for Bayer in admissions. And there wasn't enough money to keep the house going and you kids fed. So they opened the German position for me to teach, also in college. And then I took in some translating jobs at in Lake Bluff for the Army base there, and I taught some students just German. The house still didn't sell. It was still the most expensive part, so I thought, nah, if it doesn't sell, I don't know what's wrong. I better get my real estate license. So I went and introduced myself to a realtor, and I got this realtor knew I had a big house, and I think that's why she took me on and sponsored me. So I study, and I go to try and get my test, and I finish everything, and I sign, and it says, are you an American citizen? I wasn't. You know, you don't become a citizen just by marrying.
Right.
So I said, no, and they said, sorry, we can't. I said, how do I become an American citizen? They gave me this little green book to study. I studied this green book. I went in front of the judge and to get my license, to get Americanized. And he said, why do you want to become an American? I said, I want to sell my house. And he said, you Germans, you always want to make money. And I said, no, I'm a widow and I have 3 children and I need to provide. Oh, he said, forgive me. God bless you. Go. I said, ask me a question. I've studied this book, you know. So anyway, I went back. I got my real estate license, and I sold the house pretty soon thereafter.
So you had the listing on the house, too, then?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. That was
good first commission,
right.
let alone selling the house.
Yeah.
All right, well, it gets a little tougher.
Yes.
Because the baby that you had, Mark Peter, what happened with there?
Now, the baby was born fine. And 15 months after he was born, my job for Bayer now was to travel around the United States and talk to other schools to bring students into the college. So I was down in Indiana, and I said goodbye that morning, and he was just fine. He was even starting to speak a little German. And I had German girls. My family would always, every 6 months, send me a German girl who was with the kids. And the German girl said, Mrs. Carroll, something is very wrong with Mark Peter. I said, can't be that wrong. He was fine this morning, but I'll be right there. So I didn't give the speech that night. I flew back home, and he was as stiff as this table. He was in total, I can't even describe it. So I picked him up, and I took him to the hospital in Elgin, which was close by, and they said, they did a spinal test, and they said, it's far too serious for us. You have to go to Chicago downtown. So I drove him into Chicago, and they found out that he had a viral encephalitis. And he was in a coma for a long, long time. And then when he came out of the coma, he stayed retarded for the rest of his life. He lived 18 years. And so we brought him home, and I tried a method called the Doman-Delicado method, which was a patterning. It's supposed to regenerate the damaged brain cells to come back to the normal ones. So I'd take him to a convent in the morning, then I'd go to work, then I'd come back, then I'd have some neighbors and come and help. And I think even you and Teresita at times would hold his...
Yeah, that was one of my earliest childhood memory. Was walking in a room at that house out in Bartlett, and there would be these nuns in full habits. I mean, this is like the flying nun, full habit, and one would be on an arm and a leg, the other would be on an arm and a leg, and then moving the head, and they would just move it back and forth, and that... I remember walking in and seeing that picture. What are they doing to my little brother?
I know. It must have been scary, yeah. And I think I finally understood that keeping him was doing more damage to also you and Teresita and, of course, sleep. There was no more sleep for myself, you know, was that I placed him into Misericordia.
So here you are. You come to America. In a sense, you're living this dream because you meet this larger-than-life Ken Carroll. You're married. It's a dream wedding in Europe, a European honeymoon. You start a business. He's doing well in a construction business. You build your dream house, but then you're widowed, your husband dies, and then you have a child that's, you know, desperately ill and is essentially brain damaged.
I think
so. That must have been the low point.
It couldn't get worse. At that time, it could not have gotten worse. But I also knew that my love to him had been so big that I just couldn't let him down. I couldn't let you kids down. I couldn't fall apart. So I just kept taking every day for a year and a half. And then guess what? A friend of mine from Barra called and said, you have to start dating again. I said, I don't want to date. I don't. Now, they wanted me to meet what they thought the perfect husband again. So I said, now, listen, there's 3 things I don't want. It can't be a non-Catholic.
Can't have that. God forbid.
It can't be anyone over 30 who has never been married, because Ken's old friends who were over 30 that I would once in a while go out for dinner were just old fuddy-duddies. And sure can't be...
over 30.
Over 30 was way...
No more bagpipe recitals there. They slow right down after they're 30.
I am 29, and, you know, that's just... No.
Right.
And not a traveling salesman, because on my travels, I would sit next to somebody, and it always ended up, and they said, where are you staying tonight? And do you want to go out for dinner? Or, you know, once in a while I'd have a dinner with somebody, and they always just wanted me for... not that.
Men are pigs.
Very much so.
Sorry.
Well, what do you think? But this man I'm supposed to meet is all 3.
Okay. Now we have some pictures, too. I don't know if we have the very handsome Bill Heiser on some of those pictures, but...
this is our...
There he is.
We're jumping ahead. This is actually the wedding.
Okay, all right.
So you're ready now. We dated for quite some time, and what we would do is we'd go out, the 2 of us, on Saturday, and Sunday take you and Teresita or go visit Marquita.
So how old were we at this point when Bill started showing up at the house?
He came in 1963, and you were now...
I was 61, so I was like 2 or 3 years old.
Yeah.
And I can remember this guy, Bill Heiser. There's yours truly in the bow tie. I can remember Bill Heiser coming to the house, and we thought this was great when Bill would show up.
I know you.
Because he brought Frisbee out one time, he brought a hula hoop out, and I remember there was a big snowstorm, and he came out and we built tunnels, and this Bill guy was just a barrel of fun. So we thought, he's just a friend of Mom's or whatever, but we liked this Bill guy. I can remember the room, I would watch him shave, and he had these like razors that you'd twist, and the 2 flaps would come up like that and go down, and I'd sit there and watch him shave, and I thought, wow, this is cool. Yeah, with the Frisbees and the hula hoops and going to the zoo.
You went more times to the zoo and parks than ever in your life
I had
before.
no idea Bill had larger designs, but I just knew he was a party. So, all
Now,
right. So
we
Bill
did
starts
this
showing
and
up.
became more serious, and I realized that this Bill Heiser had no clue what it's like with a family. They do get sick and they do get cranky, and so I wrote him a Dear John letter. Don't come back.
Ouch.
Ouch. And he didn't. That was the worst part.
Don't the guys know that you're bluffing when you say that?
I know,
You just want to see it
but
to
I think I
overcome
was
it.
just so tired. And at one dinner, another guy walked in, and he turned to him and said, "Oh, have you met Loretta?" And I thought, he's trying to tell me nicely, get lost, you know. So I told I was miserable for maybe, I don't know, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, nothing. And all of a sudden, a phone call came. No, it was your birthday coming in September, and there's this big, huge box from Marshall Field in Chicago, and the card is signed, The Elves of the Forest. Oh, I know who that is. So next day, I'm in at the school, working in my office, and the phone rings, and it's Bill Heiser. And he said, "Hi, how are you?" "Fine." I lied through my teeth, and he said, "How are the kids?" I said, "Fine." He said, "Now, there's a package coming, and I just wanted you to know where it came from." I said, "I know." And he said, "Now, how are you?" I said, "Good." He said, "Can I come back in your life?" I said, "How about tonight?" That was the day that I not quit my job, but I left that day, and Dad said, he told his secretary, "Goodbye, I'm gone." He came all the way out from Chicago, and he walked in. It was a rainy day, I'll never forget. He had this ugly, ugly trench coat. I thought, if we ever get married, this has to go first. Yeah. Anyway, he wouldn't take it off. I said, "Come in." And I had made a big fire and put a bottle of wine on the icebox. And he said, "No, not quite yet." So I said, "Why?" And he said, "Where are the kids?" You guys came running out, Teresita on one side and the other. He said, "Come, I need to talk to you." So he put his arms around you and your sister, and he said, "You know, I know you have a dad in heaven, but I think you need one on earth too. And I'm here tonight to ask your mom to marry me, but I need your permission." That did.
Now I remember he said, "You know, I would like to be your dad, and I would like to be your mother's husband." We said, "That means you'll be here all the time?" Yeah, we thought that was a great idea. I remember that. Yeah.
That's great. So then I said, "Now let's slow this down a little. You know, let's first see if we really still love each other and whatever." So we started doing the same dating on Saturday for the two of us, and Sundays with the kids. And then finally, one day he said, "Now, are you ready? Can we get married?" I said, "I think we are." And he said, "This Saturday?" Oh, no. You know, wedding takes a little while. And I knew his mom wasn't so fond of me because he had been dating the the Presbyterian priest's daughter.
Wow.
And that was a good thing for them.
That would have been quite a catch.
Yeah. Now, he became a
I believe
Catholic.
that was in Winnetka, Illinois, so it's very kind of hoity-toity.
She definitely did not think a German woman with 3 children,
widow.
one retarded, would be the choice.
Yeah.
Now, he was more persistent than his mom. And my family, I didn't even let in. I thought, I'm not going through all this again. So he asked me to marry, and I said, "No, we can't right now." He said, "Why?" I said, "Because it's Lent." He said, "What's that?" And I said, "It's 40 days before Easter in the Catholic Church. You can't get married." He said, "Then when is it over?" I said, "Easter Monday. Let's get married." We were married Easter Monday.
Wow. And I got to be the ring boy in the wedding.
You didn't drop it.
My sister Teresita was the flower girl.
Right. She didn't want to wear her hat, but yep.
And then from there on, we have a couple, there's a picture of that 70s show or something like that, because Oh, yeah, there we are.
There
I
he
guess that
came.
was-
Yeah, this was on our engagement.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys are kind of showing off.
Well, that
But
Bill
you like
Heiser had no idea what he was getting himself into.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Well, yeah, there's that 70s show.
Okay, this is with Grandmother Carol, who always was in favor of Dad, your
Yes.
second dad.
Uh-huh.
She, as a matter of fact, you once became very upset at your second dad a little later, and you went to
Uh-oh.
her and said, "I don't like this new dad."
Oh.
And she turned to you and said, "Young man, you look at me now. You will never get such a wonderful second father, and you go home and be good."
Wow.
So she was very much a supporter.
And then
Then we went back. This was my dad's 75th birthday party. And let's see, now we have everyone. Michelle, oh, we had then 2 more children,
right.
Michelle and Tim.
Right.
When I was telling her we were doing this show, I said, "Michelle, you were born in 70 and Tim in 71. She said, "No, Mom, I was born in 68. So we were married in March of 67, and she was born in September of 68.
So now in that picture in the middle, the older gentleman in the middle was
It's my
Peter
dad.
Burpin Sr.,
Right,
and he was the one that started the Coca-Cola business.
right. And then there's my mom in the red dress.
Uh-huh.
She was a very strong woman. You know, with Dad being in the war and gone a lot and working very hard, she worked with him in the Coca-Cola company,
Right.
side by side. But she would educate us by her eyes. It was always like, "Gisela, Loretta." Oh, it's still, yes, Mommy. Yes. I mean, we were definitely educated, being very obedient.
Yeah.
No talking back to parents.
So you lived your life. You grew up in war-torn Germany.
Right.
You had this something inside you that wanted to come to America, at least to get educated, and then go back to run the family business.
Right.
But you fell in love with the first love of your life,
Right.
Ken Carroll.
Right.
And then tragedy came. But I have to thank you for not moving
Going
back to Germany.
I know.
Because
Life would have
I just
been
love being an American.
I'm glad.
And, you know, the German, very tight pants and small, you know, everything, really. I've been there before. It's a nice country, but
Thanks.
still, they have a tendency to want to run the world, and we have to. And so you decided to stick it out.
Yep.
And you came here, and through very difficult times, it seems like you counted on your faith quite a bit.
Quite a bit. Yeah.
Your friend?
Quite a bit.
And then the real blessing was Bill Heiser,
Right.
that came in. There's a country song that says, "I wish I could be half the dad you didn't have to be."
I remember you calling us once and
Yeah.
telling me about
I sent you the lyrics of that.
Yes,
It's Brad
you did.
Paisley song, and I guess I should probably have him, but that's how I feel about Bill Heiser.
Nah,
And if I could, because he's right here in the studio. Bill, if you could just, Carolyn, if you could bring Bill Heiser down here real quick. We want to get your perspective on all this.
Just watch this step.
If you can confirm or deny half of this, what we're talking about, and
Snook says the step going up.
just come on over, and
Now, we haven't
thanks a lot, Dad. Have a seat.
I haven't
Because
really told you where we are now.
Well, yeah, we want to. First of all, I just want to get Bill Heiser. When you first met, just speak into the mic. When you first met Loretta Heiser, and you saw the baggage. That's what I would refer me and Teresita as baggage. What was going through your mind that said, "Hey, this is a program I want to sign up for"?
Oh, well, you guys are both very cute.
Really, we were cute at that.
Very cute, a lot of fun, and easily manageable with ice cream cones and whatever have you. I mean, very easy. So one night with you guys, and the next night by ourselves was we had a lot of fun.
Now, I mean, you were a up and coming businessman. I understand at that time you were driving a Thunderbird sports car.
Yes, I had a Thunderbird sports car and a lot of speeding tickets to go with it.
Okay. So, I mean, but you're footloose and fancy-free living in near north side of Chicago.
Yeah.
And you meet this, I mean, she's a very attractive lady. We can agree on that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, she was widowed, had 2 kids, and I mean, that seemed like an awful lot to take on. What was going through your head?
Well, it was a fascinating relationship, and I thought, well, this is something totally different from the type of thing that we had in Chicago or on Winnetka, and I thought, let's see what's going to happen. So we began to date, and our first major date was when we went to a dance out on Lake Michigan. And what I didn't realize is how much your mother loved to dance. And this was very romantic out there, and we waltzed and we danced. She said I waltzed all the wrong way, but but we had a lovely time. And then we went on dates downtown. Occasionally we saw Dr. Zhivago. That was our first romantic movie that we saw, and it was that type of thing. Needless to say, when the Dear John letter came, it was a horrendous shock to me. But I mean, we did have a lot of time before that, and then afterwards worked out fine.
Wow. Well, listen. I love you. I love you dearly. You know, I don't know where I'd be today if you hadn't come into the picture. You were a little league coach and got us involved in youth hockey, and I mean, I think every son needs a dad. You know, it's just been great. And you adopted me. So when people ask why is my name, you know, Martin Heiser. Yep. But I look like this Catholic priest named Carol.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of explaining that has to go on.
That's why you brought me on the show.
You need an hour TV program to really break it all down. But listen, I want to thank you so much.
It was good.
I love you dearly. Thanks for coming in to the TV show.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for you know, coming up for the graduation and everything. And this has certainly been something different. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And for those of you watching at home, this isn't a local Connecticut politician coming in to say how great he's going to take care of the budget problems in Hartford. It isn't someone who's written a book or something like that, but it's my parents, and I think they have an incredible story to tell. It's just a little slice of America, and America is built on stories just like these. So join us next week on Ideas at Work and Beyond, same time, same station, and we'll have some more fun. Thanks for watching.